Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's kind of break everything down bit by bit. What I think this episode did a fantastic job of is setting up the fact is, like, you have to learn how to play by the rules. Like, the fact is that rules are just the way this world runs. And it's just kind of like, I think we're going to see a change in our characters in the sense of, like, who they were versus who they're going to have to be in this world. Obviously you learned that a big part with like Coulson and the group when they are trying to do that whole thing, trying to figure out what it is that Virgil found out. In particular, there's like a rock of like mass of Earth called 616. I thought that was kind of interesting. One of those little Marvel things that I know. Basically 616 is it's where the main continuity of Marvel Comics takes place. So I thought that's kind of interesting. And it is cool that they are, and I think I kind of brought this up before, but it's like this whole multiverse type of thing, because Deacon kind of brings it up in this episode, because he's talking about the whole way that Daisy destroyed Earth, but she's like, I'm not strong enough to do it. It's like, I mean, I'm guess given enough time, you could. But the question is, he threw out there, it's like, oh, maybe things work differently in this world. Maybe there's like a multiverse situation. So that does beg the question: this is the future, but what future is it? Is it our character's future, or is this like the future of a different Earth, so maybe we're no longer on Earth, 616. I mean, I don't know, like, if Marvel, like, this is all the MCU, so it's like, maybe it's all technically falls under reigns of all being on 616. I don't think they've ever expressly brought that up, but it's something I kind of brought up with the whole, like, Doctor Strange thing, that the multiverse has been set up so they could easily play with that a little bit. It'd be kind of interesting because later on in the episode, I'm bouncing around all over the place, so I do apologize. Cassius ends up getting Daisy, and he's like, "Oh, World Destroyer." It's like, how did she get here? And it's like, so that does beg a question, like, if Daisy did rip apart the Earth, does that mean she's out and about in space, just doing whatever? Because we still don't know anything about this world, obviously, like, beyond this. Like, we're getting introduced to more aliens. We got introduced to Lady Barsha and her whole deal with Cassius. Because it seems like they're selling Inhumans, like, in particular, they saw the girl Abby, played by Ciara Bravo. I don't remember her character's name, but I think she was in Big Time Rush. I think she played the little sister in Big Time Rush to one of the members. And now, most recently, I think it was like, it's a little while ago, but the show Second Chance, she played the granddaughter in that. So, I don't know, just kind of in the back of my mind. I really like her Inhuman ability. I was wondering what they were going to do with that whole situation. It seems like they make Inhumans up here. Those who are successful basically get rewarded. It's like, oh yeah, your family's taken care of if you prove useful. In this case, like, Simmons is helping Abby to learn to control her power, which she has a pretty awesome ability. Like, basically she can change the density of her molecules, which is kind of interesting. So she can phase through stuff, or like make her body super hard as rock, or super dense is the proper term. Like, so breaking that dude's arm when he punched her, and then phasing through his chest and killing him like that. That was pretty. As like that guy, like, I always think that with that ability, just because it kind of makes. I'm crossing over to the, like, DC. I do apologize, but the best comparison I can make is like a speedster. Like, they vibrate their molecules so fast that they could phase through stuff, and it's like, the way she killed him made me think of, like, oh man, that's how, like, that's some Reverse Flash stuff. But nevertheless, it seems like Cassius is doing all this stuff that he's doing right now to prove himself, because Lady Brush is like, oh my god, like, this little corner that you've got, it's quaint. It's almost like she's putting him down. It's like, oh, you're doing something with these Terrians. I mean, you found some useful. And it's almost like Cassius is trying to build this perfect world and everything, because he's trying to show off to other people, show off to, other species. They're like, that's because he's selling off Inhumans to them. So I think he's trying to build a reputation for him. It's really hard to say 100% what he wants. Also, we kind of learned that it seems like there might be something between him and Sonara. Because it does seem, because even he's like, oh, you're getting Gemma to help Abby because you're trying to make me happy. So it's like, I don't know whether it's like they've known each other for a long time of a thing, or whether she's like a servant that's in love with her master type of, like, I don't know how that goes. It just seems weird with the Kree. Like, it just, I don't know. infatuation didn't seem like it'd be a thing in their repertoire, but I mean, I guess. I mean, to be fair, we don't know a lot about them specifically. Maybe this would be a big season to learn more about them. They've popped up, obviously, like they've had effects over the course of the show, but like they've popped up a few times, but that's about it. So we still don't really know much about them. Don't really know what they're really benefiting from this. They're hoping to gain from all of this. So, but going back to what I was saying earlier, I do apologize. I'm being all over the place. Is Coulson, Mac, May, and Tess during that whole situation trying to follow that message for Virgil. And they end up finding like a recording. They end up finding out the recording is coming from the surface of Earth. But it's like, how is that possible? No one can survive there because basically people are sent there to die, which it seems like because they brought it up during the premiere, like that place is covered in roaches, which we see that dude get surrounded by a crap ton of them. So it's kind of interesting because that whole roach thing kind of reminds me of Pitch Black. It just immediately came to my mind now that I'm thinking about it. It's just with the whole like them covering the entire planet like that kind of reminds me of like, I don't know, like once again it's a situation of like how did that happen, like even if Daisy is possibly responsible for splitting Earth, like how does that end with those things being on Earth? You know, I mean obviously they're on in the lighthouse, so that means that the Kree put them there, but for what purpose? Are they meant to be guard dogs to prevent people from going to Earth, from seeing whatever it is that they're really up to, like their big plan or whatever? I mean, that's what it seems like, not unless those things just naturally migrated to Earth, or maybe they were weirdly enough in the core in the moment the plant was ripped apart, they rose up from the core. I don't know. But this is, like I brought up earlier, the whole aspect of like you have to cross certain boundaries. In this particular episode, you had like Tess suggesting they kill that dude because it's like this dude will rat us out. I mean, for one, we attacked a superior. This is automatically going to be bad for us because, you know, they're still under servitude to Grill. It's almost like a worker type of situation. You kind of have to work your way up amongst this system. It's almost like a social class system in a sense. So she wanted to kill him, but obviously Mac, as well as the rest of the team, didn't want to do that because it's like that's not what they do. But it's like, and like I brought up earlier, it's a situation where it's like you have to make sacrifices. And like Yo-Yo ended up planting a gun on him so that it made Grill like not suspect the team and turn on this dude. And you see the way he looks at Yo-Yo, like it's hard to say, like, it almost looked like Mac was like, I can't believe you just did that, Yo-Yo, like, because you're signing that man's death warrant. But at the same time, I think it made him realize, like, well, the fact of the matter is, because you did that, now we're all alive. So it's like I brought up earlier, like, they're going to have to make certain sacrifices in their own beliefs that basically they will have to cross lines that might not have crossed before, because it's like it's fine and dandy to have your code, but your code doesn't apply to this world. This world has new circumstances, new rules, because the fact of the matter is it's like you're here to possibly save everyone, sure, but it's like ultimately it's like by doing things your way you can ultimately get people killed. And that's something that Deacon is trying to get across to Daisy in this episode, because Daisy's kind of going all wildfire, kind of going off on her own. And he ends up betraying her at the end. It's like, oh, like I told you, playing the long game. Now, it's hard to say where Deacon is coming from in this. Like, because he tried to warn her, because it's like, if she did what she did, if Daisy did what she did, I kind of figured she was going to get captured anyway. I thought it was more so like, oh, like, I thought what was going to happen is she was end up popping up in time to get between the whole Abby and that fighter. But that turned out to be the case. I still felt like she was going to kind of get herself captured, which she kind of did. I just thought it was going to be like a circumstance of like, oh, they see what she's capable of and they stop her themselves. But nevertheless, it's either that Deacon is like literally playing the long game, that he's basically feeling like the only way he can make this situation better for everything and everybody is if he removes Daisy from the board, because like she's too much of a wild card. Plus there's also the aspect of him, he doesn't trust her. It's like in his mind it's like it's all her fault that things ended up the way they did, she's the reason Earth in the shape that it's in. That, or it's just because it's like he realizes how powerful she can be and what she could represent. She could change things. It's just she needs to be out of the way, not causing too much trouble, because her doing things will ultimately get people. I mean, both sides kind of coincide on that whole aspect. Like, I'm curious, is this a game, or is he just being a douchebag and selling them out for his own sake, and not just his sake, but everyone else's sake? Because it does seem like Deacon does have a plan. He does seem like a selfish dude, but it's like, you know, Tess kind of alluded to it during the premiere that basically he lost people. So for him, he's not willing to do that, especially because it seems like Deacon's kind of connected, because there's that guy he ended up getting information to Daisy too, like the shoe guy, as Daisy put it, is like, well, it kind of shows you that Deacon's kind of got a connection to people, and he helps people out, obviously with the whole framework situation. So finding some way to help people. So it's not like he's in this just for himself. He cares about other people too. He's just kind of a little rough around the edges, essentially. So I'm very interested to kind of pick that up and find out what that's all about, whether or not he really is, the bad guy in the situation or not. This episode also brought up an interesting thing about Coulson and May. Still haven't quite had that chance to really figure that whole situation out. And they touch each other's hands, and it's just like, and Coulson's just kind of preparing for the worst. He's like, well, there's always a possibility we can't go back home. But May's like, no, I'm not giving up. It's like, she's like, I literally just got out of the framework believing I was Hydra. And it's like, no. What I'm going to do is I want to sleep in my own bed. It's like, once again, this is literally picking up right after the framework situation. They didn't even have a chance to just relax before things kind of unfolded. And I also appreciate that this episode kind of played out. Ultimately, at the very end, it cuts to how season 4 ended, where it's like, all right, Phil, you enjoy the view now. Get back to work. I thought that was just kind of like nice touch. Immediately getting to it at the beginning, not like it's like, nah, like it's way down the road. It's like, nope, it's immediately kind of set to be like, nope, and we're picking up right where season 4 ended. I'm also curious about something else too. There's a whole situation with Simmons. Like, they keep cutting back and forth to it, like, oh, like Simmons, like not being able to like hear something, and you see her staring. Like, she's not saying anything, but to me it seems like she's reading lips, but they haven't expressly been like, oh, she's reading lips. It's just like, I don't know whether that's really a thing or not. Like, I wonder, is that gonna be something come up later on? She's like, actually, I know a lot more than I like. Because anytime it really kind of gets to what, like Cassius or Sandara are saying anything to each other, it's like, obviously it's muted because of our hearing, which is kind of interesting how that thing works too, because it's like they can cut it on and off at any point in time. So I'm curious to see what they do going forward with Simmons. It seems like they're probably going to be using her as a means of helping future Inhumans learn how to control their powers, what this means now that they have Daisy under their control. I mean, I guess it kind of works out in a sense because it brings Daisy closer to Simmons, but also Simmons now knows what this means. I mean, the fact is, but Daisy's all in another, well, they don't know Daisy and Simmons are connected, but it's like, the fact is Daisy is so in control of her own abilities. I mean, this whole situation might be about pushing her abilities. Like, I knew that I figured like some fight arena thing was going to be set up, because they brought it up in the premiere when they were talking about like, oh, we could use Mac. He's big and tough, so like he'd be kind of perfect for the arena essentially. So, but I didn't know that I mean, I'm sure it has other uses as well, but in particular, it seems like it's used to show off Inhumans' abilities, which is kind of in itself a question I'm curious about too. Like, it seems like like I said, we are exploring more alien races, like whatever Lady Barsha was, and like, they brought up like, oh, her champions fought other people from, she didn't use the word system. I forgot what the exact word she used, but it's like, so there are other alien species, and maybe like, cause whatever this whole situation is with the Kree and the lighthouse, it's on like the outskirts. It's essentially the outskirts of the system that probably, it's like, oh, getting here is kind of a hassle because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, kind of. I guess, with Earth being in the situation it is, there's like nothing left in this system to really be curious about. I don't know. And I'm just curious to see what other like species we really get to know. Like I said, this is like the first time in the like in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. we've ever dived deeply into space. Like, it's never like, because it's always taken a place on Earth. So that's why I'm so fascinated to see like where we go with this whole like beyond the stars type of situation, And also, I'm curious to find out more about this Daisy situation. Like, cause she really got pissed the moment Deacon called her world destroyer. But it's like, the question is, why would Daisy destroy the world? Like, why? What would be her reasoning for that? I think from what I was kind of like catching from the corner of my eye, because I try not to watch the previews, it seems like next week's episode might dive deeper into like what's going on with this whole situation. I'm very interested to find out. Like, I'm so eager to find out like how things ended up the way they did. There's that postcard that Virgil had that had Fitz's name on it. It's like, what role does he have to play in this? Is he the reason why that they were summoned? Is it because Fitz set everything into motion so that they that's a question, once again, kind of like, and it kind of coincides with something else that's kind of popped up recently. I don't want to make the DC comparisons again, but if you're if listening to what I'm saying, you'll probably end up hearing it. But it's like maybe Fitz lost his team in this world. This Fitz in this multiverse world, this Fitz lost his team, so he needed to get his team from another world, another team that might not have any. Because who knows? Maybe some of his team are still alive in this world, but they've grown jaded or broken. So, like I said, if Quake in this world ended up destroying it, it's like, well, why? Did she go evil? Maybe it's a similar situation to what happened to Daisy, whereas Daisy kind of went on vigilante last season after everything that went down with Lincoln. Maybe that kind of broke her. Maybe she didn't have the team to kind of pull her back, and eventually she just snapped or something, and just like being on her own, and just she got pushed to the edge, and she just didn't care anymore. Maybe maybe it turned into a situation of like her caring more about herself than other people, maybe caring more about Inhumans than other people. Like, it's hard to say, but we'll just have to wait to the next episode to see what this all means and if any of that's true. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.